Hello and welcome to another video podcast on location from Paris at the Olympics, which is a first for me. So there's amazing atmosphere in Paris at the minute. I'll try and show you the Eiffel Tower here without hopefully making you too dizzy. So we arrived yesterday. We were in Lille for the basketball, and today we are here for there's my son being stupid. Okay, we are here for the athletics this evening. So with the Olympic theme, I thought I would do a little podcast for you guys because there's so much you can learn from sport for business, is one reason. And secondly, at our conference this year, we have none other than Sir Clive Woodward coming as our special guest. And he obviously is mainly known for being the head coach that took England to World Cup victory in the Rugby World Cup. But after that job, he was hired by the British Olympic Federation for Team GB in preparation for the 2012 London Olympics to really help them deliver success in terms of the event that they're putting on. But his role was really all to do with about aligning something like the 26 different sporting teams that were taking part in as part of Team GB, and he had to bring them all together. He had to create a winning culture. He had to do everything that he'd used to achieve success in rugby and apply that to the Olympics, and he did an amazing job in terms of the London Olympics were widely regarded as one of the most successful ever in terms of as an experience, but also in terms of Team GB, in terms of how many medals they won. So Clive Woodward is a hugely inspirational guy and someone I've learned a lot from in running and growing my business, my practice. And that's why I wanted to bring him to Manchester for our event to share, his experience and his lessons and his philosophy of leadership and building teams and building cultures for success. So it's going to be an amazing session. For this little podcast, I was going to do a couple of lessons to get you in the mindset and some of the things that I think you can definitely use and take away from Clive Woodward. So the first thing I would say that, Clive talks about this, but it's something I've talked about in the past as well, and it's something that's obvious, but it's kind of hidden in plain sight, and that is that life is lived in 4-year chapters. So life is lived in 4-year chapters. So the Olympics happens every 4 years. The World Cup happens every 4 years. The Rugby World Cup happens every 4 years. The Football World Cup happens every 4 years. And I think if you look at your life in chapters of 4 years, it's a time scale and a time frame that allows you to make real progress and set a real goal and actually make progress towards it that is significant, because success does not happen quickly overnight. When you open your business, you probably expected that you were going to be far more successful far quicker. But I think if you can just embrace this idea of a 4-year time scale as what would be possible for you in 4 years' time, in terms of how much progress could you make, what advances could you make in terms of building your team, taking your revenue and your profitability to the levels you want it to be, take your reputation to the level you want it to be, take your own confidence and skills and personal growth to a new level. So I think if you can get into it for the long run and really see it as a 4-year chapter as a minimum, then you will succeed far more than the average person who gives up after a month, 6 months, 12 months because it hasn't happened yet. And I think that's a really big lesson to take from the Olympics. That every single athlete here, this has been at minimum a 4-year journey. For many of them, it's an 8-year journey, a 12-year journey. You have people here at their 4th Olympics still trying to win, still trying to succeed, still on their journey, because they're committed to it and they're in it for the long run, not for let's give it a quick try and see what happens. So I think from a mindset point of view, that is massive, and it can completely change the context of everything you do in your practice in terms of building your team, building your culture, creating new processes, figuring out marketing, figuring out selling. If you really look at it as, what could you achieve over 4 years, then I think it just really opens a whole space, a whole vacuum for you to learn and progress and make significant progress. So I'm going to come back to a few different locations a few different more lessons. So I'll try not to make you too dizzy as we're moving around Paris, but we'll be back with another lesson in a sec. So one of the other lessons that, again, tying in with the Olympics, is if you want to really achieve the highest level of success in business or in sport, certainly to be at the Olympics, then you have to know that you're not going to get there by yourself. You cannot do it alone. And I think if you're trying to make your practice any better than just an average practice, then you need to realize too, you're not going to get there alone. So all of these athletes have to figure out what are the resources, who are the people I need around me to help me achieve my ultimate goals. They need to have the right specialists, the right coach, the right advice in all kinds of areas, the right people around them to support them, the right peer group of people that understand them and can relate. And I think it's exactly the same in business. So you need advisors, you need specialists that have done what you're trying to do. You need team, your staff are a huge part of how you're going to get there. So you need to have the right people on your team. I think you can have teams full of two types of people. You can have energy sappers, which are members of your team that just sap the energy out of the whole team and make it almost impossible to achieve the result. And then you have energizers, people that bring energy to your team and bring a sense of drive and commitment and passion for making it happen. So your team is definitely a key element. And then coaches and advisors and people that can share expertise from having done it themselves is a big part of helping you get to your goal. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. And then also I would say that your peer group, the people that you surround yourself with, your inner circle, your colleagues, your friends that are other business owners, such an important part of success, being able to have people that can support you, reassure you, give you courage, give you a kick up the backside when you need it, be an ear to listen, be someone to bounce ideas off. And I think that's the great thing of what our members in Optical Success Academy get in that community is the value of just having the right people around them and positive people that are able to spur them on their journey and sharing their journeys together. So that's a big part of achieving success, whether it's business or sports. You cannot do it alone. You need to get the right people around you. Okay, and the next lesson from Clive Woodward, and also anything to do with the Olympics, is that if you want to be successful at the highest level, you're not going to get there by yourself. You cannot do it alone. So certainly if you want to be at the Olympics, you need to first start by figuring out who do you need on your team to help you get there. Which coaches do you need? Which advisors do you need? What kind of peer group do you need? What support do you need in all areas to help you get there? And it's the same in business. You need to realize that if you want to have a practice that is more successful than the average, which is typically mediocre, then you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You need to model success. You need to learn from others who have already achieved what you're trying to do. You need to have the right coaches, the right advisors. You need the right peer group around you. I think that's one of the best things about Optical Success Academy is the community of like-minded practice owners that is supporting each other, being a sounding board for each other, giving each other courage, giving each other a kick up the backside when they need it. And that's such a huge part of being successful, is having the right people around you that can elevate your thinking. And it also really applies to your team, the staff that you have, and the team that's going to allow you to take your practice to where you really want it to be. And that means you need to have the right kind of people on your team, people who are energizers, people who have the drive and the desire and the passion to achieve these goals that you have, rather than energy sappers, people that just suck the life out of everything that you're trying to do in your practice, and all that they can do is list excuses and don't want to change and don't want to improve and don't want to take responsibility. So really looking at your team, looking at your advisors, looking at your coaches, looking at your peer group, the other business owners around you that can help you, is a key part to you being successful. Okay, so we are back on location, not in Paris anymore. The Olympics were amazing, particularly the Stade de France and seeing the athletics. I would definitely put that on your bucket list, because the atmosphere in that stadium was incredible in the evening with the athletics. So we're now a little bit further down in the south of France in the area called La Dordogne, which is full of castles like this. But I realize I still owe you guys 2 or 3 more tips from Clive Woodward. So that's what this next section is about. So 3 more tips from Clive Woodward. The first one is be a sponge, not a rock. Be a sponge, not a rock. And Clive will talk about this with us in Manchester. And that was one of the standards that he put in place for the England rugby team, and I think subsequently any teams that he's been involved with. And what he describes as a sponge, or the analogy he uses, is being a sponge for learning and soaking up and absorbing every single thing you can that will help you learn and improve your skills and your abilities. And he only wanted sponges on his team. So that means a rock is something that's hard and impervious, and rock thinking is thinking you know it all, thinking the way that you have always done it is the way you will continue to always do it, being resistant to change. He has zero interest in anyone that is a rock, because he knows he can only build a team if it's full of people with sponges who are open to learning and actively looking to find little nuances and little improvements and little ways to get better, and considering all, nothing is off limits in terms of where you can discover lessons and things that will help you to grow your business. So Clive, when he built the England rugby team, he had them training with the commandos in the Royal Marines to help them get better at decision making and dealing with change and dealing with high pressure situations. He really took a lot from a dentist that I reference a lot called Paddy Lund, an Australian dentist, about how he set up his practice to be completely think differently about what a dentist practice should be about. So he was looking at dentists, it sounds ridiculous, he was looking at a dental practice and a dentist to train his England rugby team. So to have anybody to even be open to considering that, they need to be a sponge. So in your practice, both for yourself and for your team, your success will come down to how much of a sponge are you for learning, and are you humble enough to realize that you don't know it all, nobody knows it all, and all around you is constantly lessons if you go looking for them and finding ways of using these things. If you're a rock and you're closed off to learning and you think that you shouldn't need to do it, or you think that those certain things shouldn't matter, or you think that the way you've always done it or the traditions in the industry are the most important things, then you're cutting yourself off from success. So be a sponge. That is tip number 4. Tip number 5 from Clive Woodward is you have to think correctly under pressure. So thinking correctly under pressure, this comes down to when you're having to face the most difficult situations because things are very hard or things are scary or there is pressure, whether it's time pressure or financial pressure or sometimes peer pressure, people around you, then in those moments it's incredibly hard to make the right decision, because often the decision that feels right is the easy one, and it's the one that's taking the easy path rather than the hard path, and that leads to often long-term failure. So it might feel a little bit better in the moment, but it leads to long-term failure. So you have to really identify how do you make decisions in those moments when there's pressure, and that was something that Clive really worked with in his team in a rugby match. Obviously it's a high pressure situation when things don't go to plan, and the game plan that you have isn't working, or someone gets injured or something happens that upsets your preparation. It's in those moments that they needed to train for thinking correctly and making the right decisions under pressure. And that's something that Clive will really go in depth with us in Manchester, and helping you identify the situations when you're under pressure in your practice, and making sure that you have the processes and the abilities to make the right decisions. And for your team as well, when they're up against it and they're in a busy day, they need to know the areas where they need to slow down, make the correct decision, rather than just trying to rush through and actually making mistakes that cause more problems. And then for you as a business owner, business is difficult and it is scary and it does take courage, and there will be self-doubt and there will be fear of being judged or fear of failure and shying away from making the hard decisions. So again, that's why it's really important to surround yourself with people that will help you make the right decisions under pressure, and the pressure that you face being a business owner. So again, having good people around you that can be a second voice in the conversation that's going on in your mind when you're making these decisions. So think correctly under pressure is tip number 5. And then the last one, last but not least, is teamship. So teamship is a term that I learned from Clive Woodward, and he used it to describe something that he learned from someone else called followership. So you have leadership, which lots of people talk about and lots of books are written about, but you also have followership, which Clive termed teamship. So the ability to be a team, the ability to follow, the ability to be a team player. And that is not written about or talked about anywhere near as much as leadership, but it's such an essential ingredient of success, particularly if you're running a small team. So I'm really looking forward to Clive going into depth and being able to pick his brains on this, because chances are, if you have a team of people that you employ, that is the biggest source of challenge that you have as a business owner. It's the biggest source of problems, of headaches, of frustration, but it's also what you need in order to grow a business that is more than just a job for you. You need a team of people so that you can travel and be away and the business still functions. So you need to figure out how to get good at this and really exploring teamship and making your team involved in the standards that you want to set as a practice and set as a team for behaviors, attitudes, mindset that you all embrace as a team, so collectively you can win together. So really studying teamship and taking the time to get it right is a key to being successful in business, in my experience. And it's just a long-term area that you want to constantly be thinking about, constantly working on, and that's another big reason to be at Manchester and hear exactly what Clive has to share with us on that. So yeah, to wrap up, in summary, if you want to hear from Clive Woodward and from the man himself, and also benefit from being surrounded by great people that can help you think differently about your practice and give you the courage and the encouragement to move forward and do the things that are going to make the practice better for you and better for your team and better for your clients, then Manchester and our annual conference is the best place, I believe, that you can do that. It is in September on the 8th, 9th and 10th. All the details are at osaevent.co.uk, osaevent.co.uk. And yeah, if you have staff issues, then learning about teamship is going to be massive for you. If you want to start thinking differently, and if you have had setbacks or you're constantly dealing with setbacks, being able to take those and turn those setbacks into success. Clive, I believe, is the person more than anyone I've studied who can help you in that area, and also just helping you create a culture and a team where you're just embracing the mindsets, the attitudes that are going to lead to success, and setting it up in a way that can be more fun, more enjoyable for everyone involved on the team and in doing that. So I would recommend that you don't miss it. Go to osaevent.co.uk. Clive Woodward is definitely someone you should be studying and learning from, and there's no better way to do that than being in a room in person in Manchester. And I hope that you will be there as a guest and join us, and all the OSA members. We'll have about 100 practice owners there in Manchester, so looking forward to seeing you there. And I will sign off here from France.
Thank you for listening to the Optical Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're brand new to our world, head over to opticalsuccessacademy.com, where you can get started with my special report, The 9 Keys That Unlock the Hidden Profits in Your Practice. Or if you've been listening to the show for a while, you like what you hear, and you think you could benefit from this type of help to accelerate the growth and profitability of your practice, reach out to my team at info@opticalsuccessacademy.com and tell us exactly what you're looking for. You'll find all this information in the show notes. And if you know someone who would benefit from today's show, please share it with them. Until next time, make it a great month.